You are about to enter the Eclectic Frontier. Greetings and salutations. Once again, this is Sir Ian C. Christopher, bringing you another comic book review. Today, I would like to talk to you about Jessica Jones #1. Written by Kelly Thompson, and beautifully rendered and colored by Mattia Diulis. I must admit, I am not the biggest fan of Jessica Jones the comic book character, nor am I the biggest fan of the Jessica Jones Netflix series. So I wasn't expecting to get much from this comic book. I am pleased to report that I was wrong. I found this comic book to be quite enjoyable to read, and certainly quite a pleasure to look at. One might also consider it to be a bargain to pay only $5 for a comic book containing over 40 pages as well. Before I continue, I must caution that beyond this point there may be spoilers. You have been warned. Let me begin by stating that I do not want to dive too deeply into the details of the story, as I would rather have you enjoy it for yourself. I will say that the plot centers around a murder mystery of sorts. Jessica enters her office only to find a body lying motionless upon the floor. As she begins to investigate, she is interrupted by the arrival of New York's finest, who immediately arrest her, believing that they have caught her red-handed, in the act of murder. After being hauled downtown, Jessica finds herself the center of attention as the police have a go at good cop, bad cop. It isn't long before our favorite Marvel attorney, Matthew Murdock, comes to the rescue and secures Jessica's prompt release. Resisting the temptation of Chinese soup dumplings, and the comfort of her family, consisting of Luke Cage, and her daughter Danny, Jessica decides to return to the scene of the crime to do some investigating. It isn't long before Jessica finds herself the target of trouble once again. This time coming in the form of a bullet to the back of the head. And just like that, Jessica Jones is dead. It would seem, however, that our Jessica is quite the marvel, as she survives a bullet through the head without the faintest trace of a scar. As soon as she is released from the hospital, disobeying doctor's orders, Jessica is once again out to solve the mystery she has reluctantly become the center of. Jessica's next stop is a certain house on Bleecker Street in New York's Greenwich Village. Or as you and I know it, the Sanctum Sanctorum of one Dr. Stephen Strange. Jessica has troubled the good doctor in the hope of learning if the bullet which took her life is of a paranormal nature. To her surprise, she discovers that the bullet is indeed normal. However, it would appear that she herself may not be. Leaving the dickish doctor behind, Jessica returns to her office to mull over the mess she's found herself tangled in. Before she can delve too deeply into investigation, she is paid a visit by Misty Knight, the newly appointed head of the FBI's aberrant crime division. Misty, it seems, is doing some investigating of her own. It would seem that Jessica wasn't the only superpowered female to have her life taken, though she appears to be the only one to survive the attempt. She learns that the White Rabbit and monster hunter Elsa Bloodstone were murdered as well. Later on in the evening, Jessica heads over to Midtown Manhattan, and the apartment of Elsa Bloodstone, seeking to examine the crime scene of Elsa's murder, in the hopes of getting a lead in her investigation. However, what she gets, is a 4-string bass to the face. It would appear that Jessica wasn't the only one to survive being murdered. Monster hunter Elsa Bloodstone has survived as well. This brings us to the end of our story thus far. I must admit that I rather enjoyed this comic book, and I find myself eagerly anticipating the next chapter. To all parties involved in the creation of this comic, I say well done, well done. This has been Sir Ian C. Christopher with the Eclectic Frontier, reminding you, happiness isn't something you remember, it's something you experience.